Hey guys, my name's Brad Binder and today I'm going to talk you through the differences between dry and wet conditions. So as you can imagine, the track's much like the road. You get times where it's really just a little bit damp, and then you have times where there's a lot of water on track and aquaplaning becomes a big issue. Riding on a wet track on slick tires is never recommended. It doesn't work very well. Obviously, a wet tire has a lot of cuts in it, and that's to displace the water. Whereas a slick, you don't have anything, so it's really easy to lock up or make a mistake, and there's no warning on slicks. It's over before you know you've had a moment. Wet tires, it's completely the opposite to what you would do on a slick. Whereas a slick, you want it to be really hot to have good grip. A wet, you almost want it to be cold. If it starts to dry out and the tires start to overheat, you lose a lot of grip and a lot of performance. So with the wet tire, you actually try to stay riding over the wet patches and things to keep the temperature down. In wet conditions, your riding style is a lot more relaxed. Everything is a lot more smooth, a lot more flowing, less aggressive with the front brake, and you try to pick the bike up earlier to really get the drive. You can't open the throttle as hard on the edge of the tire, and of course you can't put in big force into the front tire that you would in the dry conditions, under braking and in the middle of the corners. It's really tricky actually with the brakes because you need heat in a carbon disc for them to work. So it's really crucial that the team run the correct size disc and the right amount of covers to try and keep your brake temperatures in the right range. If they're too cold, they don't work, and if they're too hot, they don't work. So that's a big trick that the team need to get right, but luckily I'm just the rider, so I don't worry about that. From a dry bike to a wet bike, the most critical thing that we change is we make the suspension much softer. You don't put in as much effort, you can't brake as hard and you can't accelerate as hard. So they try and just make everything softer so the bike works more normally at a lot less speed. We have different traction control settings, the power is turned down a little bit, and the engine brake we also need to run a little bit less because you lock up so much easier in the wet.
It's a flag to flag. Binder is the only one that's going to stay out on circuit. These are all changing tyres.
So a bike swap is something we have to do when there's a flag to flag race. Flag to flag race is when basically we have started dry or started wet, and you decide that you'd be faster on the other option, which could be dry or could be wet. During the race, the rider has the decision at the end of the day of when he wants to stop. Of course, the team can send you messages that pop up on the dashboard recommending maybe a bike swap, or can maybe tell you if someone's already faster on the other type of tire. You've got to take into account that you might lose about 40 seconds in a bike swap, whereas how much slower are you actually going to be if you just stayed out. So that's always the calculation that you need to make, and try not to mess it up.
Brad Binder then gambled. He stayed out there. He saw the top 5 men ahead of him peel into pit lane. You've never seen anything like it. So unpredictable is MotoGP. The checkered flag is out, ladies and gentlemen. Brad Binder wins in KTM's backyard on slicks in the wet. What a Grand Prix.
I hope you guys have learned something in the difference between the dry and the wet. Some people love it, some people don't, but it always is really, really cool for the spectators. Cheers.